Hello students, the purpose of this video is to help you with your homework on ALEKS over solving multi-step inequalities. So what I'm going to do in this video is walk you through each question on how I'd answer the question that was presented to me. So the way that ALEKS works is we will have the same type of question, although our numbers are probably different. The way that I'm going to go through these questions should be the same as you. So if you get stuck on a question, please just go forward in this video until you see that I am on that question, and this video can help you work through it. If you have more questions, please make sure that you email your algebra teacher and we can help you specifically with the question that you have. All right, so even though this homework assignment is on ALEKS, please make sure that you have your work page. So however your teacher likes you to create that work page, please do so. Make sure that you include your name and which block that you have algebra. Also, make sure that you include the homework number. So in this case, my homework up here says homework 31. I believe that's a mistake. I believe on your class it should say homework 30. Whatever it is up here, please make sure that you include that for your work page as well. And then put down which question number that you are on and then the work that will need to go with that. So on my work page, let's say I've already headed my work page, I would now be putting down that this is question number 1. And it says, for each value of w, determine whether it is a solution to w is greater than 7. So the first thing that I'm going to do is write down the inequality that I was given. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace or substitute w with the value that it tells me to use for my variable. So for my first one, it tells me 9. So I'm going to replace w with 9. Everything else stays the same. And so now I need to ask myself, is 9 greater than 7 a true statement? And yes, that one is. My next one I have is 7, so I replace w with 7, and then I still have greater than 7. So now I ask myself, is 7 greater than 7 true or false? That is false. That is not true. So no, 7 is not greater than 7. And then I would do the same thing for my next one. So is 10 greater than 7? Yes, that one is. And then is 3 greater than 7? And no. All right, so on my work page, I would not have very much, but these would be the items that I would be showing on my work page. And then now I go back and I click whichever answer choices that I had over here. Don't forget that for homework, you should be able to check your work as you go. And if you miss something, please go back and fix it. Don't just fix it on ALEKS, but please also fix it on your work page as well. All right, so then on my next one, this one is question number 2. All right, and so I would show any work that I may need on for question number 2. For this question, okay, so I guess I should over here put what my inequality is. So this is question number 2, and I have that y is less than -1. So this is saying if I choose any number, I can replace this with any number that is less than -1. So this is my boundary point. All right, so -1 is going to need to have a circle with it. Now, what circle am I going to use? Am I going to use an open circle or am I going to use a closed circle? Because it's just saying values that are less than -1, but I can't actually include -1 because -1 is not less than -1. It's the same value. That means that I want to say it gets as close to that point as possible, but it's not actually included in the solution, which means I need to use an open circle. So I'm going to click on the open circle and I'm going to plot it at -1. Now what I need to do is I need to come up with numbers that are less than -1. So pick any number that you want that is less than -1. So for example, -7 is less than -1 is a true statement. So then what I would do is over here, I would grab my line tool, I guess I could call it. Technically it's array. And now I either need to click on the right side of the number line from my boundary point or on the left side. So since I said -7 is less than -1, this is a true statement. -7 is right here, so I'm going to click at -7. And this is saying that all of these values, -10, -9, -8, and so on, all of these values are less than -1. And that's how I'm going to graph my inequality on the number line. For question number 3, it's the reverse of what question number 2 asked. This time, the number line is provided, and I need to come up with an inequality. So the first thing that I should do is look at what is the boundary. So where is the circle plotted? And that is at 0. Okay. And then what I'm going to need to do is I'm going to need to figure out, was that a closed circle or an open circle? In my case, it is a closed circle, which means that 0 is a part of the solution set. All right, so if you have a closed circle, that's when you're going to use a less than or equal to or a greater than or equal to symbol, because the boundary point is a part of the solution. So this is a closed circle, so I'm going to use one of these. And what I have here is x. I need to compare x to the number 0, where my boundary point is. So these values, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all of those numbers are bigger than 0. And then since it's a closed circle, I need to make sure to include my underline, which means or equal to. So what this is saying is if I plug in any of these values, such as 11, I can check my work off to the side. If I plug in 11, is 11 greater than or equal to 0, true or false? And since it's true, that's telling me that I have the correct inequality. So I use whatever variable it tells me to use. So in my case, it's x, and then I'm going to use the greater than or equal to 0, and then as always, check my work. And if it's wrong, I'd go back through and fix it. Question number 4, I also need to write an inequality, but this time I'm turning a sentence into an inequality. So I just need to translate. So here it says 2, so I'm going to write down the word 2, times the sum of a number and 29. So I'm taking 2 times all of this. So 2 times the sum of a number and 29. So what I need to do is I need to take 2 times all of it, which means I need to take parentheses. So the sum of a number and 29. So the word sum means plus. It's the answer to the addition. And it tells me to use the variable b. So in my case, I would have b plus 29 is at least 24. So I'm going to put 24 over here, and then I'm going to think through which inequality symbol am I going to use. So what's a number that's at least 24? Well, 25, 26, 27. So all of these numbers need to be bigger than 24. Then I ask myself, could it be equal to 24? Could it be equal to my boundary? So at least 24. 24 is at least 24, which means it's or equal to. So this would be my inequality that I would need to type in and check. For question number 5, it is similar to question number 1, but this time the inequality is a little more complicated. This is a multi-step inequality. All right, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace my value of x with whatever values they give me over here. So I'm going to rewrite my inequality. So -36 is greater than or equal to 3, but instead of writing x, I'm going to substitute in these values over here. So for this one, I would come up with 3, and then in parentheses, I'll put 10, and then -9. And then I'll evaluate. So -36, is that greater than or equal to? If you need to use Desmos, use Desmos, but 3 times 10 is 30, and then -9 is going to give me 21. So then, is -36 greater than or equal to 21? No, it's not. So I would select no over here. Let me do one more. So let me do -9. So this gives me -36 is greater than or equal to 3. In parentheses, I'll replace x with -9 and then -9. So my left side stays the same, but on my right-hand side, I can use Desmos. 3 times -9, is -27. And -27 minus 9 would be -36. So is -36 greater than -36? No, but -36 is equal to -36, which makes it a true statement. So this would be a yes. All right, so I would do the same with my remaining 2, and then I would answer yes or no based off of what my work shows over here. And then as always, I would check to make sure I'm right before moving on to the next question. The next question, rather than having solutions and checking to see if they're correct, the next question, I'm just going to solve my inequality. So on your work page, please write down what inequality you are given, and you are basically going to solve this just as you would an equation. Only difference comes from if you ever multiply or divide by a negative, that means that you're going to need to remember to flip your inequality symbol around. Other than that, the only difference is you're going to be given a range of answers versus just one answer that you would have for solving an equation. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to split the left-hand side from the right-hand side. And I find where my variable is. It's being multiplied and it's being subtracted. So get rid of what's unattached to the variable first. It's going to the opposite side, so I'm going to do the opposite. So to cancel out a minus 6, I would add 6 to both sides. This is going to give me that 6x is greater than or equal to negative 30 plus 6 is negative 24. All right, now my variable is being multiplied by 6, which is a positive number. So I'm going to do the opposite of that, and I'm going to divide both sides by 6. Since I'm dividing by a positive, that means I keep the same inequality symbol. 6 divided by 6 cancels, and I'm left with x is greater than or equal to negative 24 divided by 6 is negative 4. So this would be my inequality. This is telling me that any number that is greater than or equal to negative 4 is a solution. So if I were to plug in negative 1, plug into here, and I should get a true statement. If I plug in 10, and for x, I should get a true statement, and so on. Any number that is greater than or so bigger than or equal to negative 4 would be a solution. So again, I just type my answer in over here, check it, and then move on. Question number 7, very similar to question number 6, a little bit harder of an inequality, however, because most likely you're going to be working with a fraction. But that's okay. You can work with fractions. The reason why I know you can work with fractions is because you can use Desmos, and Desmos does the fractions for you. So first thing that we'll do is separate the left-hand side from our right-hand side for our inequality. Find the variable. It's being multiplied and it's being subtracted. So get rid of the subtraction first by doing the opposite to both sides. So I'm going to add 12 to both sides. That's going to leave me with negative 9 over 8 times x is greater than or equal to negative 3 plus 12 is going to give me positive 9. The next thing that I'm going to do is x is being multiplied by negative 9 over 8. So the next thing I'm going to do is the opposite of multiply, which is divide. So I'm going to divide on my problem by negative 9 over 8. I will need to do so on both sides. All right, so negative 9 over 8 divided by negative 9 over 8 are going to cancel each other out. That's going to leave me with x. I am dividing by a negative. If you ever multiply or if you ever divide by a negative when you're working with inequalities, you remember to flip the inequality symbol around. So it used to be a less than or equal to, so now this is going to change to a greater than or equal to. And then I'm going to use a calculator, and I'm going to figure out what is 9 divided by, and I would type this in exactly as I wrote it, 9 divided by parentheses, negative 9 divided by 8. Again, please use Desmos to do this arithmetic for you, and this is going to tell you that you have an answer of negative 8. All right, so any number that's bigger than negative 8 or any number that's equal to negative 8 would be a true solution. All right, bigger than isn't great technical term, so I would say x is greater than or equal to negative 8. That would be my answer. Type in whatever your answer is, and please make sure that you check it and make sure that you are right before moving on. The next question is also an inequality for you to solve. Only difference is that when you read this one, 5 minus 8v is greater than or equal to 11 minus 6v. When you separate from your left side from the right-hand side, you're going to notice that your variable is in two spots. It's on the left side and it's also on the right-hand side. So first thing that you'll need to do is to get those on the same side. So it doesn't matter which one you choose. Usually I go with the smaller one. So negative 8 is smaller than negative 6. So to move it to the opposite side, I need to do the opposite. So the opposite of a minus 8 will be a plus 8. So I'm going to plus 8v to both sides. So a minus 8v plus 8v cancels out. Those make me go to 0, which means they cancel out. I have a 5 that's left over on that side is greater than or equal to, and then I still have 11, and then if I need to use Desmos, I use Desmos, but negative 6 plus 8 is going to give me positive 2, and that still has a v with it. All right, so now I go through and I solve this the same way I did the last two. Here's my variable. It's being multiplied by 2. I also have an 11. Get rid of what's unattached to the variable first, which is a positive 11. The opposite of a positive 11 is a minus 11. So I'm going to a minus 11 on both sides. 5 minus 11 would give me a negative 6. Is greater than or equal to, these cancel each other out. Positive 2 times v. The opposite of multiplying times 2 is divide by 2. And since I'm dividing by a positive, it means I'm keeping the same inequality symbol. Negative 6 divided by 2 is negative 3. The 2 divided by 2 cancels, and I'm left with v on this side. So now all I need to do is take this answer and type it in over here and check my work. Question number 9, I'm also solving an inequality. They just keep progressively getting a little bit harder as I go. So here when I find my inequality symbol and I split the left-hand side from the right-hand side, notice that once again I have variables on both sides. Okay, so what I need to do is I need to get those variables on the same side. But before I can do that, like I did on my last problem, I have this variable that's trapped in parentheses. So very first thing I should do is get rid of the parentheses. Parentheses mean multiply. So on my right-hand side only, I am going to multiply by what's attached to the parentheses. So that's negative 4. So negative 4 times 5 is negative 20. And then negative 4 times negative 3 is positive 12, and that still has the u with it. So now my variables are 9u and 12u. They're on opposite sides, so I need to get them onto the same side. Which one's smaller? That would be 9u, so I'm going to move the 9u over. So the opposite of a 9u would be minus 9u, so minus 9u on both sides. 9u minus 9u cancels. Be careful, this isn't just 35, there's a negative in front of it. So negative 35 is less than, and then I still have negative 20, and then 12u minus 9u would give me positive 3u. U is attached to 3, so get rid of what's unattached to first. The opposite of a minus 20 would be a plus 20 on both sides. Negative 35 plus 20 is going to give me negative 15, is less than. These cancel each other out, and then I have 3 times u. The opposite of a times is divide, so I'm going to divide both sides by 3. Since I'm dividing by a positive number, I keep the same inequality symbol, and then negative 5 divided by, or negative 15 divided by 3 would give me negative 5. And then the 3 divided by 3 cancels, leaving me with just u on that side. So here would be my answer. I have this on my work page. Over here, I type in my answer and check to make sure that it is correct before moving on. Question number 10 is actually 2 questions in one, so please make sure that you show work on your work page for both of those questions. So question 10a, go ahead and copy it down and solve it like we have the last few questions. So notice on this one, here's my inequality symbol, and that means that I don't have variables on both sides because I only have a 14 over here. So what I need to do is simplify my left-hand side before I can do anything else. Parentheses mean multiply. So I'm going to multiply what's inside my parentheses by 4. That's called distributing. So 4 times 5 is going to give me 20. 4 times negative y will give me negative 4y. And then plus 6y stays the same because it's not inside the parentheses, which means it doesn't get multiplied. Is greater than or equal to 14. All right, now when I find my variables, they're on the same side, so I need to combine them. I only do opposite when I take my variable or another number to the opposite side. Since they're on the same side, I would just type into Desmos, what is negative 4 plus 6? So what is negative 4 plus 6? And that's going to give me positive 2y, and then I still have the 20 out in front. And then this is still greater than or equal to 14. So now I move what's unattached to the y first, and that's mine. In my case, I have a positive 20. So now since I'm going to the opposite side, this is where I do the opposite. 20 minus 20 cancels. I'm left with 2y is greater than or equal to. 14 minus 20 would give me negative 6. divide both sides by what's attached to my variable, and in this case it's a positive. So because I'm dividing by a positive number, it means I keep the same inequality symbol. 2 divided by 2 cancels, leaving me with y is greater than or equal to, and then negative 6 divided by 2 is negative 3. So here would be my first answer. So over here, I'm not going to choose either of these because I actually came up with an inequality. I'm going to choose this option that says y is greater than or equal to, and then I'll put in negative 3. Then I'll do the same thing for my second inequality. I get rid of my parentheses first, which means multiply, so I'll distribute. So this is going to give me negative 5u, and then negative 5 times 4 is going to give me a negative 20. Plus 32 stays as plus 32 because it wasn't in the parentheses. And then less than, I'll do this distribution on this side as well. 5 times 3 gives me 15, and then 5 times negative u is negative 5u. All right, now when I look at my left-hand side from my right-hand side, I'm going to need to combine some like terms. So I have a negative 20 and a positive 32. Both are constants, numbers without variables. And again, since they're on the same side, I'm just going to type them in like this into Desmos. So I type in negative 20 plus 32. So I still have negative 5u, and then negative 20 plus 32 should come up with positive. So I'll put plus and then 12, and then is less than, and then 15 minus 5u. Now what I need to do is get my variables on the same side. I'll choose the smaller value. I have negative 5 and I have negative 5. Those are actually the same value, so it doesn't matter which one I move. The opposite, since I'm going to the opposite side, the opposite of minus 5u is plus 5u, so I'm going to plus 5u on both sides. Minus 5u plus 5u cancels, leaving me with 12 is less than, and then I still have my 15. And then is negative 5u plus 5u, that also cancels. So remember, the case where you have variables that cancel out is either going to be no solution or all real numbers are solutions. It's going to depend on what is left. So is what is left true or false? If it's false, it's no solutions. If it's true, it's going to be all real numbers are solutions. So ask yourself, is 12 less than 15? Is that true or false? In my case, it is true. So then I would come over here and I would choose that all real numbers are solutions. And as always, check your work, make sure that it's right before you move on to the next question. The last question is an application question, which means that we are going to need to translate the word problem into our inequality before we can solve the inequality. So read through it and then try to figure out what is the question asking to help you define your variables. Or ALEKS is actually nice and has defined our variables for us. My question reads, David wants to earn at least $52 trimming trees. He charges $7 per hour and pays $4 in equipment fees. What are the possible number of hours David could trim trees? Use T for the number of hours, and then write your answer as an inequality solved for T. All right, so in this case, the only value that I don't know is how many hours. That's what I'm trying to figure out. What are the possible number of hours? So there's only one variable for this. This is not a system. This is just one inequality. So there's one variable. T is what I do not know. So what I need to do is I need to start off with the relationship that I am given here. David wants to earn at least $52. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off by writing down 52. Well, on my work page, I'd also need to write that this is question 11. So I'm going to write down 52. This is how much money he wants to earn, at least, which means that he wants to make more than $52. So I need this inequality to open up away from 52. Or he could make $52 exactly. He'd be happy with that. So this symbol right here, less than or equal to, compared to my 52, is going to represent at least $52. Now this side is going to represent how much money he earns. So it says he charges $7 per hour. So that means that he is going to be making, so this is positive to him, he's making $7 for the number of hours that he works. So T represents the number of hours, so this is going to be 7 times T. That word per is an indicator for multiplication. So I'm multiplying how much money he earns per hour times the number of hours. But this one says he pays $4 in equipment fees. That means if he's paying, he's losing that money, which would be a minus. This is positive 7 because he gets that money. It's becoming his, so that's a positive to him. And then he pays $4, so that's why this one's going to be a minus. He pays $4 in equipment fees, and doesn't say that this is per hour. This just says $4 of equipment fees in total, which is why I'm just putting the number -4 right here. So this is my inequality. I'm not finished with it. Now what I need to do is solve it. All right, so solving this inequality, when I separate my left side from the right-hand side, my variable is over here only. It's being multiplied by 7, and I'm subtracting 4. I get rid of what's unattached to my variable first. I need to do opposite since it's going to go to the opposite side. So 52 plus 4 is going to give me 56, is less than or equal to 7 times t. The opposite of times is divide, so I'm going to divide both sides by 7, and 56 divided by 7 would give me 8. Since I'm dividing by a positive number, my inequality symbol stays the same, and then 7 divided by 7 cancels, leaving me with t. So in my case, what this is saying is that David would need to work at least 8 hours in order to make at least $52. If he wants to make more than $52, he'd have to work more than 8 hours. Okay, but if he works exactly 8 hours, he should make exactly $52. And then, as always, please make sure that you type your answer into ALEKS. Check to make sure that you are right. And if you are wrong, please go back and try to find your mistake. And once again, if you need help, please email your algebra teachers specifically for those questions, and we will help you specifically for those questions that you ask. All right, so I hope that video helps. And again, that was over solving multi-step inequalities. It might be labeled as homework 30 or homework 31 in your ALEKS. Please just read whatever the title is, solving multi-step inequalities, and this was a video to help you with that.